My own son's lawyer sent me a letter asking me to sell my silence in exchange for peace. I didn't cry, I brewed coffee, logged every detail, and walked into the courthouse wearing my late husband's ring. They thought it was over, but I had one more surprise to file. Before I begin the story, tell me, where are you listening from today? The evening light over Charleston had that pink gold shimmer only April gives. I stepped into Harborview Grill with my son, Tanner, and his wife, Maribel. The air smelled of salt and fried oysters, soft jazz humming through the speakers. A sign on the table read, Voss Party. Not Linnell. My last name? I smiled politely when the hostess repeated it. The sting stayed tucked behind my ribs like a needle in silk. We sat by the window. The harbor spread before us, flags snapping against the wind. I touched my wedding band, a habit I never broke. The server, young and cheerful, asked, "How y'all doing tonight?" I started to answer, but Tanner jumped in, ordering for me. Tone brisk, practiced, the shrimp special, a glass of house wine. I nodded, watching the sunset reflection slide across the glass. My father used to say, "Respect is like seasoning. You notice when it's missing." Tanner laughed too loud at his own jokes. "Mom's on a fixed income, she's simple," he told the waiter. The man's smile faltered, eyes darting toward me with pity. Maribel smoothed her hair, pretending not to hear. "She always gets the grilled fish, right?" she said, handing the menu back before I could open it. Her new purse, something shiny and expensive, sat between us as if it needed its own seat. I caught a text flashing on Tanner's phone. "Appraisal done. Call later." He flipped it over. My mind logged it away. The air between us thickened with perfume and politeness. I counted the harbor buoys outside, each blink of light steadying my breath. When folks try to shrink you, you sit taller. That's the rule I live by. Midway through the salad, Tanner tapped his knife on the glass. "Mom, we should talk business." He said it like a salesman introducing a deal, not a son speaking to his mother. "That house is too big for you. Market's hot. We can take care of everything." Maribel leaned forward, smiling sweetly. "We found you a great senior condo. Pool, activities, no stress." She looked toward the waiter, waiting for applause. I sipped water, slowly. My father's voice again, "Never answer when your mouth is full of pride." Tanner pulled a brochure from his jacket pocket. "Buy low, sell high. Not this time, not sell high, Mom," I asked, quietly. "You two already decided," he laughed. "Come on, Mom." "Be reasonable." I laid my napkin flat across the table. Not folded, not crumpled, just flat. Tanner wouldn't meet my eyes. Maribel reached for her wine. I said evenly, "Let's enjoy dinner." She exhaled, thinking she'd won, but I'd only marked the starting line. Silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. She talked about new curtains, vacations, things bought with other people's time. I watched the reflections in the window, their faces overlaid with harbor light, and thought, who said pour first, him or her? I smiled. "You know, son, I paid that mortgage when gas was 89 cents a gallon. I can still read a bill." Maribel chirped. "In today's market, liquidity is love," I answered, soft but steady. "Where I'm from, love is showing up, not cashing out." The waiter blinked, unsure if he should refill the glasses. After dinner, in the parking lot, the air smelled of salt and diesel. Maribel called an Uber. Just in case Mom's tired, Tanner leaned close. "We'll list the house next month. Don't complicate this." I smiled the way church ladies do when they forgive the unforgivable. "Of course, baby," I said. My phone buzzed as I typed myself a note. "Call Calder Boone. Morning." The harbor lights trembled on the water, tiny ledgers of dignity. Tanner laughed to the driver. "We're moving Mom out soon." I looked straight at him. "Tomorrow, I'll be at the county records office." His smile wavered. "Some of us," I added quietly, "are poor in manners, not money." The next morning, Charleston woke under a thin veil of fog. The air smelled like wet magnolia and low-tide salt. I sat at my kitchen table with my second cup of coffee, phone in hand, rereading the text I'd sent myself. "Call Calder Boone, morning." Calder had handled my late husband's estate. Solid calm, the kind of man who never wasted a word. I dialed. "Odessa," he said, voice warm like Sunday coffee. "Been a while." "Yes," I replied. "I need a title check on my house. Today." He paused. "You expecting trouble?" "I'm expecting company," I said, and let him fill the silence. While I waited, I walked through my house, the creak in the hallway, the faded picture of my wedding day, the gardenias blooming by the porch. Everything carried history, proof of a life I'd built without shortcuts. By the time I reached the back steps, Calder called back. "Your name's clean on the deed," he said. "No transfers, no liens. Why do you ask?" "Because my son thinks it's for sale," I said. He sighed. That slow lawyer's kind. "You want me to make it less easy for him?" "Yes," I said. "Let's start there." After we hung up, I opened my kitchen drawer. Receipts, tax files, the smell of old paper. I began sorting everything into neat stacks. Property insurance, utility records, the deed my husband and I signed 25 years ago. I remembered his handwriting, slow and strong. He used to say, "Paper keeps the truth when people forget it." Around noon, the phone rang again. Maribel. Her tone was sugary, careful. "Hey, Mom, just checking if you need help with the house appraisal." I smiled into the silence. "That's kind of you, baby, but I already handled it." Pause. "You did?" "Yes," I said, calm as gospel. "And I called the county clerk this morning. Thought I'd make sure everything's in order." She went quiet for a beat too long, then chirped, "Oh, great. We just want to help." "I know you do," I said, ending the call before she found her footing again. I sat back, watching sunlight drift across the dining table. For the first time in months, I didn't feel cornered. I wasn't angry, just awake. That evening, Mrs. Morn Granger from next door stopped by with cornbread. "You look like you're cooking up a storm, Odessa." I laughed softly. "Not a storm, just a little weather system of my own." She leaned closer, voice low. "That son of yours better remember who taught him manners." "Oh, he will," I said. "Soon enough. Why me before bed?" I opened my laptop and created a new folder, House Records, Linnell Trust. I renamed every file, ownership, insurance, utilities, all under one name, mine. Then, just before midnight, I added a note to myself. If they come for the house, they'll find I'm already home in the paperwork. I turned off the lamp. Outside, the fog thickened, curling over the streetlights. Tomorrow would bring its own noise. Calls, arguments, maybe laughter masking fear. But tonight was quiet. I let that quiet fill the room, steady and certain, the way armor feels before a battle you know you're going to win. The county records office smelled like printer ink and lemon disinfectant, the kind of sterile scent that makes people small and paper powerful. I arrived just after they unlocked the doors. The clerk, a young woman with tired eyes, snapped, "Next!" before I'd even reached the counter. I handed her the parcel number, keeping my tone level, my shoulders firm. She asked for my ID, and I laid it flat beside my Medicare card like I'd done this 100 times. Her brows pinched as she scrolled, eyes flicking fast. "There's a pending transfer on this property," she said, printing a form but not meeting my gaze. The timestamp read April 24th, the day after that dinner. I jotted it into my pocket notebook. Steady hand, no shaking, I reminded myself, and whoever might one day listen to this story, if it isn't printed, it can be erased. Always print, date, and keep your proof. At the public computer, I typed my name. A PDF appeared with the title, Deed Addendum. I clicked, and my stomach turned still. Not loud, not dramatic, just a deep stop. My name was there, signed in cursive so neat it tried to pass for care. But I never make my L swing right. Mine hooks left, a habit since college. The notary seal was from a strip mall near Ashley River Road, the one beside the nail salon. And the date? It matched my Tuesday church circle. Someone had forged me while I was praying. I printed the file, stapled it, and in red pen scrawled, "Copy of fraud." I whispered, "He finally did it," and waited for the tremor in my hands to pass. Outside, sunlight hit hard against the courthouse steps. I called Calder Boone, reading the docket number slow and even. "Odessa," he said, voice tightening. "Don't confront them yet. Chain of custody first." I texted him photos of the forged signature, the seal, the clerk's printout. He replied in 3 words, forgery, notarization abuse. I underlined them twice in my notebook. We arranged to meet at his Broad Street office that evening. I said, "Calder, I will not be kind about theft," he answered. "Nor should you be." Back home, I spread 20 years of documents across my kitchen table, tax forms, insurance renewals, my husband's original deed. I compared every curve, every cross of my T, every small pressure dot before Lionel. My forger had lazy wrists, impatient to cash in. I photographed each page, labeled and backed them up in a new folder, house, legal. I printed my driver's license signature as reference and dated it. The manila folder grew thick and heavy. Truth has weight. "Keep 3 copies," I murmured to my viewers in my head. "One for you, one for your lawyer, and one somewhere no thief thinks to look." Near dusk, a soft knock at the door. Maribel holding a mason jar of tea. Sweet smile stretched too tight. "We want what's best. Mom," she cooed. "Market's right now." I kept the screen door latched. "I'm fine where I am." She leaned sideways, eyes flicking toward the hallway cabinet where I'd stored my files. "We'll help with boxes when you're ready. No rush." I stepped into her line of sight, calm but firm. "Nothing leaves this house without my say-so." Her smile slipped thin, polite. "Tanner will call," she said, backing down the steps. I watched until her car door shut, then marked the time, 6:12, on my porch camera log. I emailed Calder a summary. Dinner, county flag, forged PDF, porch visit. I texted Cleo to confirm she'd saved Saturday's church video with timestamps. Then I photographed the doorbell feed and labeled it Maribel Visit. I tucked my manila folder into a canvas tote under a folded sweater. My fingers lingered on the zipper. Some babies you carry because you must. Before leaving, I left a sticky note on the fridge. "If you come in, the camera sees you." My phone buzzed as I picked up my keys. Tanner Voss calling. I let it ring out. A text followed. "Need you to sign something quick tonight." I took a screenshot, forwarded it to Calder, and typed, "They're rushing." Then I said to myself, steady and clear, "Tonight I stop being their storyline. Tonight I become the record." Calder's office smelled of oak polish and ink, the kind of place where words had consequences. He spread my documents across the desk like cards in a quiet game. The forged deed, The notary seal, the property records, Cleo's barbecue video catching Tanner's car outside my driveway. "We can prove intent," he said, tapping the seal with his pen. "Affidavit of forgery first, notary complaint next, and a title alert on your property before midnight." I nodded. Steady. He handed me a power of attorney form. "Limited authority," he said. "Just enough for me to pull records fast. You stay clear of confrontation." He coached me like a daughter. "Say only 3 things I do not consent. Put that in writing and send it to my attorney." When I left, the manila envelope felt heavier than its paper. I told myself to keep my voice as precise as the documents inside. By the time I reached Magnolia Street, twilight had turned the oak silver. My key slid into the lock, caught, then spun uselessly. Someone had changed the deadbolt. Through the side glass, I saw bankers' boxes stacked high. My boxes. The framed photo of my wedding day was gone. I rang the bell once, twice. Silence. I spoke through the wood. "This is my residence. Do not move my property." The doorbell camera blinked red. Recording. I texted Calder, locks changed, boxes visible. I attached the photo and sat on the porch swing, straight-backed. "In the South," I murmured. "You can evict a smile before you evict a person." The side door to the garage gave way to my old key. Inside, my clothes were stuffed into trash bags, linens in plastic sacks, the kind painters use. My late husband's storm lantern sat on a shelf, dusty but whole. I cleaned the glass, lit it, and let its circle of light reclaim a little of what was mine. I took inventory. Bags, damaged vase, missing papers. I wrote each line on a notepad and whispered, "Respect is a boundary you can hear." I locked the inner door with its small chain and dragged a chair across the concrete floor, posting myself like a guard. I emailed Calder a summary of events and attached photos. Then I forwarded Cleo the porch screenshot and asked her to log when she'd seen boxes being moved. My phone became my witness, recording, timestamping, archiving. I photographed serial numbers on my sewing machine, my husband's keepsake chest, my choir robes folded neatly in their bin. I slipped critical papers into my canvas tote under a spare robe. Nobody checks under sacred things. Before midnight. I left a voicemail for the HOA manager. "This is Odessa Linnell. Please note potential unauthorized entry or interior recording at my residence." The inner door cracked open. Maribel's face appeared, syrup sweet. "Oh, you found a cozy spot," she said. I stayed seated. "Return my bedroom key." I replied, "Move nothing else. Put it in writing." She tilted her head like she was talking to a child. "We're just pre-staging. You'll thank us when you're in that new condo." I met her eyes. "I do not consent. Emails only." My phone buzzed. "Tanner, stop being difficult." I screenshotted, forwarded it to Calder, and kept my gaze on her hands. When she reached for a trash bag, I raised my phone. "Documentation," I said. She froze. Sometimes quiet truth makes louder noise than shouting. Near midnight. My lantern was still burning when Calder called. "Odessa, they're trying to refinance behind your back," he said. My chest tightened, but my hand didn't shake. I filed the affidavit draft and title alert. "Sign it now." I opened the file on my phone and scrawled my signature with the stylus. "They might push for an appraisal access form," he warned. "Don't open that door for anyone." I sent him the garage photos and the lock change video. "Chain of custody is clear," he said. "Relief under steel." "Then let it stay that way." I answered. A shadow crossed the garage floor. Something slid under the door, a white envelope marked "Consent to show property, signature required." I picked it up with kitchen tongs, dropped it into a zip bag, and photographed the seal. "They're in a hurry," I said softly, staring at the locked door. But I'm in the record. The text came just after breakfast. HOA wants clarity. Meeting at 7 p.m. Tanner always wrapped manipulation in manners. I knew it wasn't an invitation. It was a summons. I drove myself to the meeting hall. Tote bag on the seat beside me, each file tabbed and dated. The room smelled of lemon cleaner and ego. Maribel waved like she owned the place. That practiced suburban smile plastered on. The HOA chair greeted me too warmly, already briefed. "We just want to resolve confusion," he said. Neighbors avoided my eyes. Pretending to scroll their phones, I sat straight, placed my evidence folder on the table, and smiled thinly. "Let's clear it up," I said. "When someone scripts your humiliation, you improvise the truth." Tanner began his performance. "Mom's forgetfulness has become concerning," he said, voice full of practiced pity. "We're transferring the title under family advisement." Maribel chimed in, waving her phone as though it held gospel. "Doctor's note says mild cognitive issues." I met her eyes. "Which doctor?" I asked. "What date?" Silence. The HOA chair cleared his throat. "We just want to ensure your safety, ma'am." I stood slowly, every muscle steady. "Show me the report. Show me the signature." No one spoke. I reached into my bag and laid out copies of the forged deed and my affidavit. "This," I said, tapping the page, "is what happens when greed tries to imitate handwriting." A hush spread. Then I pressed play on my phone. Maribel's syrupy voice from last week. "We'll move her stuff while she's distracted." Faces around the table went pale. One neighbor whispered, "That's her." I turned to Tanner. "You signed my name on a deed and called me unfit?" His throat tightened, hands twitching. "I balanced my checkbook by pen, not by theft." I said, "Right then." Calder walked in. Crisp navy suit, calm as law itself. He handed the HOA chair a document. "Any action on this property constitutes felony fraud." The room froze. The only sound was the air conditioner cutting off. Looking at Tanner, I remembered the boy who built birdhouses in the backyard, afraid of thunder. I almost pitied him. Almost. "I didn't raise a thief," I said quietly. Maribel shot back. "You always play the victim." I faced her. "No, honey. I learned to play by your rules." The HOA chair shifted uncomfortably, then announced, "This is now a legal matter." Tanner stormed out, door slamming so hard the blinds trembled. The neighbors followed, whispering apologies that didn't cost a thing. Back home, I didn't cry. I brewed strong coffee and opened my laptop. My Ring camera had logged every visitor, every box carried out. I uploaded the HOA audio and meeting video to Calder's drive. His text came quick. "You handled that perfectly. Injunction and restraining order. Go out tomorrow." I smiled, labeling my folders: deed, audio, neighbors. I spoke softly to no one and everyone. Documentation isn't revenge. It's survival with a paper trail. Then my phone buzzed. Cleo's message read, "You won't believe this." A voice note followed. Maribel bragging at her salon about getting the house before the old woman even knows it. I saved it, transcribed it, and backed it up twice. "When people talk too loud," I said, "truth finally gets a microphone." I sent the clip to Calder with one line. She confessed. Before bed, I glanced out the window. Tanner's truck was gone, but fresh tire marks cut across my lawn. The porch light flickered, then steadied. A metallic glint caught my eye near the garage. My spare key lay bent on the concrete. I picked it up, turned it in my palm, and smiled. "They're not done," I whispered, closing the blinds. Neither am I. I woke before sunrise, nerves tight but steady. My navy blouse waited on the hanger. My husband used to say it was the color of authority. I pressed the collar, poured black coffee, and spread my papers across the kitchen table. The deed copies, the audio transcript, the HOA report, and that salon confession. Calder's text blinked. We're first on the docket. Stay calm. They'll try to rattle you. The garage lantern still glowed faintly from the night before. I left it burning. Driving downtown, I reminded myself out loud. When you walk into court, don't shrink. Your taxes paid for that marble. I parked near the courthouse, squared my shoulders, and rehearsed the statement one last time. They were already there, Tanner and Maribel, all crisp suits and fake serenity. Their lawyer wore Bluetooth like a badge of arrogance. Maribel's glance could have cut glass, but she froze when she saw Calder beside me, briefcase in hand. The opposing attorney started the show. We're here to finalize a property transfer initiated by mutual consent. Calder rose smoothly. Objection. Consent was forged. Exhibit A, verified notary fraud. Exhibit B, audio admission. The judge leaned back. That's a heavy claim. Mr. Aboon. I thought, truth doesn't need to shout. It just waits for liars to finish talking. Tanner's attorney pulled out a fresh affidavit, supposedly signed by me. Same looping forgery, same wrong curl on the L. Calder handed the judge a photo overlay comparing the signatures. The shift in the judge's eyebrow said everything. Maribel tried to interject. She's confused. Your Honor, early signs. The judge raised a palm. Ms. Reese. Not another word. I cleared my throat. Your Honor, you balance my checkbook by hand. I remember every cent I've earned. Laughter rippled from the benches, soft, sympathetic, sharp as vindication. Calder motioned to the clerk. We'd like to present one more exhibit. A video clip played from my home security feed. Maribel handing papers to a notary, whispering, just sign for her. She won't know. Gasps. The judge leaned forward. Ms. Reese, would you like to explain that? Calder added. And Exhibit D, a recorded confession by third-party witness Cleo Marchand. Then came the audio. Maribel's laughter about getting the house before the old woman knows it. The judge's gavel cracked the air. Enough! Ms. Linnell, you may sit down. You've done more documentation than most detectives. I nodded once. My silence was the victory lap. Tanner's voice trembled. Mom, we were protecting your assets. I didn't raise mine. By stealing them? The judge ordered an immediate freeze on the transfers and directed a deputy to escort Maribel out. Calder leaned close. We'll file damages before noon. What cameras clicked as a local reporter whispered my name? Ms. Linnell. How did you know? I replied simply. When people change locks, they tell you who they are. Outside, the air smelled like rain and redemption. Calder smiled. You handled that with grace, I told him. Grace is cheaper than revenge, but it lasts longer. Cleo called moments later, laughter spilling through the speaker. Girl, you broke the internet, HOA groups and meltdown. I stopped at the bakery and bought a single cinnamon roll. Sweet, not forgiving. In the car, I whispered. He thought I was poor in power. Turns out I was rich in proof. That night, the news anchor's voice filled my living room. Charleston widow outsmarts family fraud scheme. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A man's voice hissed. You think this is over? I saved the voicemail under threat post-trial, then turned off the TV. Outside, the storm clouds were breaking, the air still electric. I smiled faintly. Storms don't end when the rain stops. I murmured. They end when you rebuild. The morning after the verdict, I brewed chicory coffee and unfolded the Post and Courier. My face wasn't on the front page, but the headline sat neatly below the fold, "Widow exposes forged deed." I let out a small laugh. Vindication doesn't always need bold print. Calder's email arrived with bullet points: property freeze confirmed, civil case filed, protective order active. My Ring cam caught the security patrol passing by twice overnight. For the first time in months, my house seemed to exhale. I laid out my navy scarf and pearl studs. The church fundraiser was that evening. I didn't plan to make speeches, just to stand steady among my own. Court ends with a gavel, I told my viewers, but consequences start with a headline. By 6, the Westside Church Hall was humming with gospel bass, laughter, and the smell of fried catfish. The folding chairs filled fast, neighbors, choir members, even folks from the bank. The pastor thanked Ms. Linnell for her courage, and the applause rolled like thunder. I smiled, then stepped to the mic. "Keep your papers, keep your peace," I said. "Simple truth travels faster than applause." Cleo, ever the chronicler, filmed with permission while panning across a banner reading Senior Dignity Fund. A radio host called in live and asked, "What's the first step for a senior who suspects fraud?" I replied, "Freeze your title, call your bank, put everything in writing, and when someone says, 'Trust me,' answer with, 'Send it to my attorney.'" The crowd clapped softly, not for drama, but for direction. During cleanup, my phone buzzed. The screen flashed, "Reese & Co., Marketing, HR." The voice on the line was polite, but uneasy. "Ms. Linnell, could you provide a copy of the restraining order? Our ethics board meets tomorrow." My tone stayed even. "Court records are public. You can download it." A pause, then a sigh. "I'm sorry you had to go through this," I told the camera later. "When people play dirty, they track mud into their own lobby," Cleo whispered. "They're sweating," I answered. "Justice burns slow, but it burns steady." A few hours later, Isolde from the bank met me in a side room off the fellowship hall, her binder thick with policy updates. "We've activated fraud alerts," she said. "Any refinance attempt will notify you and your attorney immediately." She smiled shyly. "Also, our branch would like you as a community advisor for our senior safety pilot, honorarium included." I thanked her and asked for everything in writing. She printed it on the spot. "Request customer-initiated fraud watch," I told the camera later. "Not just a note, it makes them call you back." That folder, labeled Bank Controls, felt heavier than gold. At dusk, the pastor dimmed the lights. Cleo's video began. Locks changed, courtroom scenes, truth unfolding frame by frame. The final slide appeared. Odessa Linnell Foundation for Senior Autonomy, launching July. Applause rose, and I raised my palms to quiet the room. "This isn't about me," I said. "It's about systems that forget who paid for the roof." My husband's storm lantern sat glowing beside me. "We don't beg for dignity," I told them. "We budget for it." The donation plate overflowed, not just with cash, but volunteer names written in shaky, hopeful handwriting. Later, sitting in my car beneath the church oaks, I read Tanner's text, "You ruined my job prospects." My reply was one line: "Actions have statements. This one is yours." Calder soon forwarded me proof the bank had blocked his credit attempt. I smiled. Peace sometimes arrives in paperwork. "Love doesn't blind," I said softly. "It locks the porch light and keeps the key." By evening, a radio producer called about a follow-up show on senior deed theft. I agreed only if they'd post a checklist, large print, plain English. Calder emailed concise talking points. No names, only steps. I practiced in the mirror. If they say emergency, say email me. If they say urgent, say tomorrow. Cleo offered to screen my calls. "Gatekeeping," she said, is love in sneakers. When I returned home, the new deadbolt clicked like punctuation at the end of a long sentence. The refrigerator's hum greeted me. Even silence had rhythm again. I wiped the lantern glass and whispered, "Some peace you buy with receipts. Some you earn by saying no." Then, a knock at 8:47. A process server stood on my porch, hat in hand, holding a certified envelope marked Settlement Offer, Conditioned Confidentiality. I photographed the seal and placed it beside the lantern. Quiet gifts change a life, I told my unseen audience. Quiet contracts sell one. I know which I'm choosing. The envelope sat on my kitchen table like a dare. I logged it the way Calder taught me, photo of the seal, time, and notation in my legal service folder. Inside was a settlement letter trading my silence for family harmony and a fast title transfer. They called it reconciliation. I called it hush money with stationery. The line demanding a non-disparagement clause told me everything. They feared exposure, not prison. I called Calder. "We reject." I said, "Draft my counter." My voice felt level, not loud, like a spirit finally standing upright. I texted Cleo, "Church copier ready?" She replied, "Paper loaded like Sunday bulletins." I brewed my coffee, black and steady, set my exhibits in order, and slipped my wedding band back on. Legacy would have its say today. By mid-morning, I sat in Calder's Broad Street office while he marked red lines across the settlement. "You keep the house," he read aloud. "They cover legal fees, and they file a public apology." We added 2 new clauses, 200 hours of service at my senior foundation and mandatory ethics sessions with the bank's compliance officer, Isolde. The no-contact order remained. I insisted on one mercy clause. If they completed everything, I wouldn't pursue criminal charges, civil only. Calder looked at me over his glasses. "They'll call you cruel or saintly?" I smiled. "I'm neither, just accurate." We signed, notarized, and attached Cleo's transcript. "Paper," I said, "should always stand straighter than the people behind it." By noon, a courier carried the counteroffer across the street. The countdown began. At the courthouse, the marble hallway gleamed with the kind of shine only truth can polish. A reporter called out, "Ms. Linnell." "Are you seeking revenge?" I answered. "I'm seeking receipts." I handed her a 1-page checklist, steps every senior should know. Tanner and Maribel arrived behind their attorney, who avoided eye contact. Calder spoke clearly. "Ms." Linnell declined secrecy. We filed my counteroffer along with the foundation's pamphlet. I turned to my son. "When you sign," I said evenly, "you're not saving face, you're saving time." The clerk's stamp echoed like a drumbeat ending a long march. Minutes later, inside the judge's chambers, Calder presented the twist, a trust document I'd executed weeks earlier. "Your Honor," he said, "Ms. Linnell's property is already placed in a charitable trust, the Odessa Linnell Foundation for Senior Autonomy." Gasps circled the room. Tanner's shoulders sagged as if gravity had chosen him personally. I added, calm as a hymn, "My will leaves personal effects to museums and my church, not to parties in this fraud." The judge nodded. "Sound planning." Maribel's ring clicked against her phone, nervous music to my victory. For the first time in months, my lungs filled all the way. Their attorney signed the revised terms: fees, service hours, counseling, apology. Refusal meant immediate civil action. I left one sealed envelope for Tanner, delivered through Calder, a prepaid voucher for debt counseling sessions, redeemable only after his apology appeared in the public record. "This is the last check with my name on your problem," I told him. "Use it wisely or don't. His reply, "You're ruining my life." Mine. I'm ending my part in it. The courthouse bells rang noon. Plain sound, not triumph, just closure. That afternoon, emails confirmed Maribel's suspension from Reese & Co. HR cited notary misconduct and reputational harm. Isolde's bank finalized its senior fraud policy, naming me as an advisor. "You've changed things," she said, shaking my hand. "Then make it habit." I replied, "Not headline." By evening, the locksmith finished installing a Grade 1 deadbolt at Magnolia Street. I logged the invoice under Home Security. My husband's storm lantern stood by the window. I polished its glass until the flame looked like a promise kept. The certified apology rested beneath it, ink and fire sharing one square of peace. I texted Cleo, "Done." She sent back a photo. Church ladies holding up fraud checklists. I sat at the kitchen table and wrote my first foundation check. Community clinic monthly rent. My phone buzzed. An elderly voice trembled on the line. "Ms. Linnell, my nephews got my deed." I steadied my pen. "Bring your papers," I said. "We'll start tomorrow." Then I looked toward the window where the lantern burned. Some storms end when one house is safe. Mine ends when the street is. The lantern's flame flickered once, throwing a thin line of light across the stack of new case files on my table. Outside, thunder rolled. Soft, but close. I reached for the phone before it rang, certain of the voice waiting on the other end. But this time, it wasn't Tanner.